With Miss Cassie, and tonight my very special guest is Sheree Rose.
Hi, Miss Cassie.
Hi.
Glad to be here.
Oh, we're so glad you're here. I understand you have another event coming up.
Yeah, I keep on trying to retire, and every time I say to myself, this is the last show, no more, I'm tired, something comes up that I can't say no to.
Aww.
And this is the event that's going to be at Highways Space, which is in Santa Monica. It's a performance art venue that's dedicated to the queer community. And by queer community, it's very inclusive of whatever your gender is or will be or was, whatever your sexual preference, whatever your gender. If you identify as queer in any way, you'll be more than welcome and you'll be right at home.
Awesome. But of course, anybody can come.
Well, we allow vanilla people in too, but for this particular show, which is can we see a yes, this is called Borderline Chaos, and it's Friday, the 15th of August, 8:30 p.m. Don't come in the morning, you won't be there. And it's going to be starring Kale Roberts and Diana Porno Terrorista, and with the participation of me, Sheree Rose.
Great. Well, so what kind of show is this going to be?
Well, I first met Porno Terrorista last year. She is a friend of Ron Athey's, and who is a very worldwide known performance artist, and a good friend of mine and of Bob Flanagan's as well. We've known him for 30 years, and we share a love of performance that's involving blood. In other words, the edgier performances. Okay. And I got an email one day last year introducing herself as, "Hi, I'm a friend of Ron's, and I'm going to be in LA for like one night, and I'm doing this performance, and I would love you to come." So I thought, well, any friend of Ron's could be a friend of mine. And so we went to this very small little art space, and it was called Heart for Art, and it was not in their usual place that you would find an art venue or a theater or anything. It was a pretty obscure part of Los Angeles, very small venue, but I figured, why not? Sounds interesting.
Yeah.
So I went there with my friend, and there was about maybe 30 people in the audience, and she comes out and she undresses completely, becomes completely nude, and says, "I believe in performing in the nude. So I have nothing to hide. I want to show you who I am." And I think the audience, if you feel free, please disrobe as well. So we could be as one. She didn't want to have any separation between herself and the audience. So about a third of the people, I would say, did take off their clothes. And it was the first time I'd ever been an audience member, you know, in the nude. But since she was in the nude, it was very innocent. It seemed very sweet and very nice. And then she proceeds with her show, which was some poetry and spoken word, and she did some things about borderline, which will also be in our show. Since she's from Spain and Spanish is her first language, she's very interested in the borderline between Mexico and the United States.
So it's got some political significance.
Definitely has political significance. Well, she's very, very political. She goes by the name Porno Terrorista, and I wasn't exactly sure what that meant. I mean, I know what it means in translated, you know, a porno terrorist, but I didn't know what it meant in practicality. But I was soon to find out. So we're in the audience, and then she says, and as part of the show, I like to have audience participation. And she proceeded to have a mic placed into her vagina, and she said, "Is there anybody in the audience who would like to spank me?" Well, You know, spanking is my specialty.
Yeah.
And I'm sure Ron must have told her, but I had never met this woman. You have to understand, I had never met her before, never seen her before.
And she's got a microphone in her
And
vagina.
She has a microphone in her vagina, and she said, would somebody volunteer to spank me? So I raised my hand sort of meekly, and she says, yes, yes. And I said, hi, I'm Sheree Rose, and so that's how we met for the first time. And I've spanked, as you well know, I've spanked literally thousands of people in my career, but never anybody with a mic in their vagina. So
that was a first.
It was a first. It was a first, and I had never met her before, so I wasn't sure how hard to do it or how long to do it. You know, I wasn't. You know, so it was very spontaneous, but we were very compatible, and it sounded great. It sounded like bongo drums, sort of.
Wow.
And so I had a really good time. I got her ass very, very red, and that was.
So you could actually hear the spanking through her vagina.
Exactly, amplified.
Wow.
It sounded like bongo drums. Well, in our performance that we're going to do with Kale, we're going to have 2 vaginas microphones, and I'll be spanking 2 of them at one time.
Nice.
And as an added bonus, my very good friend Dave from the Insect Surfers is moonlighting with his Chinese lute called a pipa, which he's played at other events that I've been at. But never, I don't think he's ever done it when I've been spanking to women with vagina. So that'll be a little musical spanking.
So you've got a lute, you've got 2 vaginas with microphones, you've got spanking going on so that it's amplified and you can hear what spanking sounds like from the inside of the body out.
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
So, and Dave tells me if he doesn't chicken out that he will be nude as well. So that'll be a first.
A nude lute player.
A nude Chinese lute player, yes. And hopefully
we might want to change that to lewd.
Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, but that's only part of the show. That's not the whole thing. There'll be many other things involved. And I think one of the things that well, Diana, the history of the porno terrorist movement sort of started in Spain.
Yeah.
It's a whole group of youngish Spanish and other European artists who believe in sexual freedom, and so they have done in the past anyway, several videos, which I don't know if you can get hold of or not. They've also done public sexual performances, sort of like spontaneous, sort of like what Alan Capro did, who was one of the fathers of performance art, did back in the 50s. And he would go places and people would start doing things, and the people who were passing by, they either would participate in it or look at it or watch it. They were called happenings in those days. Well, they've taken this idea 50, 60, 70 years in the future, in the present now, and they do sexual terrorist type things in public. One of which was a mass masturbation in a park in Barcelona, which got her sort of kicked out of the country for a while.
Oh, no.
But
imagine getting kicked out of your own country for masturbating.
Well, you know, I think that's part of, what they do, it's a political, it's not just to get off, although I'm sure some of them do, and she does, but it's making a statement that our bodies, we own our bodies.
Yes.
And as long as we do what we want to do with our bodies, that should be okay. But it's a pretty radical, you know, I don't think it would go real far in America. I don't know that she's tried it here in America. But there is a whole group, there's books written about it, so it's not just, you know, masturbating for masturbation's sake. There's much more of a political...
It's meaningful masturbation.
Definitely. Definitely. But pleasure is part of it. It's a mixture of pleasure and pain also. And one of the things that Diana is very famous for is her female ejaculation. In fact, she teaches classes around the world in teaching women how to ejaculate.
Yeah, the majority of women can ejaculate.
But she says that they're not taught how to. They don't know their anatomy. So a lot of it is she gives these private classes, and you can go if you can find out where they are, where she will show the anatomy of a female, genitalia and showed the little points. So it's not urine. When she ejaculates, it's not urine.
No, it's not. There is a separate little.
It's sort of like
that
it's a duct.
It comes out of.
Exactly, and it's like
it's a little more acidic than the regular.
Yeah, definitely, and it's like a male cum only without semen.
Yeah.
Anyway, I had never seen it happen. I've heard of it happening. I might have maybe.
I've had my hand in somebody and been squirted. Oh my God.
What she does, and what she will be doing on this Friday night, will be. And when I saw her do it, when I saw her perform last year, she asked an audience member who was a female, and who she had not met before, and she had a glove that was very sanitary. There was they're very careful about things like that. And this woman fisted her on stage.
Nice.
To an art audience. It wasn't an audience of horny men or anything like that. It was just an audience.
No, it was a performance.
And she actually ejaculated quite spectacularly. And I give her credit for being able to have an orgasm on stage in front of an audience. That's
well, our bodies are designed to do certain things. It's just many of us are not educated. There's a tribe in Africa that they take the girls when they come of age, and they actually take them in the hut, and they teach them how to squirt.
Really?
And they squirt against the wall of the hut in preparation for when they're going to be married, so they can please their husband.
That's great. Well, unfortunately, in Western civilization, that's not something that's taught to women.
No, especially in America. We still have a very much a puritanical belief in things.
Yeah, that sex is wrong or bad.
With the right-wing Christians and stuff, to them it's supposed to be an intimate act behind closed doors.
In the dark,
where in Europe they have a little bit more sexual freedom. They might be inclined to go have sex in the park or something, and people don't get upset. They realize that we are sexual beings, and it's part of our natural behavior.
Yeah, for me, politically speaking, and I feel it's important that, especially as women, that we take back our sexual nature and are proud of it rather than hide it.
Well, but then again, some of the excitement comes from the shame, very much like the Japanese culture. It's shame-based. It's part of what really builds the anticipation, and it's part of, what speaks in their mind. And I think a little bit of that goes on in this country, that, that part of the enjoyment is the shame, getting away with something, quote, dirty. Why some people find public sex so titillating. Why truck drivers are always looking down in the seat. They're looking for somebody masturbating behind the wheel. And believe me, it happens. My ex-husband was a truck driver. He says, you would not believe what people do in the car. They are more than nose pickers, let me tell you.
Well, it should be quite a sight. And plus, she does talk about political things as well. She has wonderful poetry that she reads, and she also will be using some of Bob Flanagan's poetry. She was a very big Bob Flanagan fan, and she's a dear, wonderful, loving person. The other person who's going to be with us is Cale Roberts. Cale Roberts, I first met Cale again last year in New York. I went to a performance in New York of my collaborator Martin O'Brien, who I've done several pieces with here in LA and in London. And he was doing one of his endurance pieces, and Cale happened to show up. And when I met Cale, I wasn't quite sure what gender Cale was. And Cale is a transsexual, transgender, female to male. And beautiful as a female, beautiful as a male, just a beautiful person.
Wow.
And Cale has been performing for quite a while. And we met in New York, and we bonded immediately because we both loved Martin. And then she came out last year when I did the Bob Flanagan Memorial reading for the, I think it was the 17th anniversary of Bob's death. And she came out pretty much in the nude with just sort of a harness on. And it was quite a striking figure there at Beyond Baroque, which is a literary poetry center. They're not too used to nudity, but she's so charming and delightful that that we bonded again over Bob Flanagan, and we've been talking about doing a performance together, her coming out, and then it worked out that Diana and I have been wanting to do something. So the three of us have been getting together through email and through Facebook and Skype and working out this performance.
Very nice.
So it should be exciting. There will be blood. I want to tell you that.
So what kind of blood play will they be doing?
Well, they'll be having hooks placed in their backs, huge big hooks, hollow hooks that will go in their back, and I will be riding in on some kind of a little cart. They'll be like, it's sort of like a pony, human pony thing.
But instead of reins, they're actually going to hook it into the muscles of their back.
Exactly.
And that's how you
and will. That's all how we're holding them with that.
Yeah. Ooh, that should be intense.
Yes, and we're trying to find the perfect person, and which is not that easy to find people who know enough about how to place such hooks.
Yes.
So,
yes, I do know somebody actually.
Do you really? Oh,
yeah.
Maybe we'll have to.
Yeah, I'll see if I can get a hold of them.
We've been doing a lot of what's been happening to the three of us is we all live in three different, across continent and in a different continent. She was in London for part of this. Is bringing together disparate people who wouldn't ordinarily get together. So this scene, this sort of far out art scene that sort of outrageous in certain ways, and you wouldn't see it at normal venues. I think Highways is probably the most out place that we're going to be performing this. So I give it to Highways. I don't know if they know what they're getting in for. And then, because there will be explicit sex, not intercourse, but there will be the fisting, of course, and
there'll be things of a sexual nature.
Yes, definitely. And another thing we do, we all three of us like blood play safely. So I will be doing probably some cutting on their bodies.
Oh, nice.
With scalpels, and this is something that that Ron Athey has done, and Franco B from London also has done. We'll cut like our names and then blot with pieces of linen. So our names will be on the linen in blood,
nice.
And those will be either raffled off or given away or sold or something at the end of the performance as a souvenir.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Instead of the Shroud of Turin.
That's right, exactly. But what I like about it is the fact that, that we are all of different ages, and I do feel somehow that Bob and I, because we did early S&M performances, Bob was in the nude. I was never in the nude, but Bob was for many of our performances, and I cut him on many occasions or put fish hooks into him. So these are all things that Bob and I did back in the 80s that now, more than 30 years, these people are doing them on their own, and now they're doing them with me. So it's sort of like it gives you a continuity that I think, Bob and I started something. I don't know, at the time I didn't know what we were starting, if we were starting anything, but it seems to have blossomed.
Oh yeah, cuttings have definitely blossomed. I've actually, I used to assist with a cutting class, and the whole technique that they do, everything from the design that they do with the carbon so that they put it on the body, and the procedure and how to cut it with the scalpel and what direction to go and
how deep to go,
and how you disinfect the skin and all the different things that you do, and how to dispose of things properly, and all the sorts of precautions that you need to take, especially since now we actually know about bloodborne pathogens, and we have no excuse to be naive about this.
Right.
So safety is of the utmost.
Yeah. Well, we will not be mixing any blood. Everybody will be separate. We're not going to be doing anything that would be dangerous. And
so disposable scalpels.
And
you'll have a sharp box there, and
like I say, we'll hopefully have everything under control. And we want
you'll have it under control
as much as possible. And I'm a little nervous about it. We're not going to have a whole lot of rehearsal time, but in performance art, basically, I think it works better when it's sort of spontaneous.
Oh, absolutely.
We have outlines of what we're going to do, and then we'll. Go ahead.
Well, no, absolutely. I mean, spontaneity really makes the scene any performance art thing. I know that a lot of my performances, you know, they give me a general guideline, and then we see where the energy takes us.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm telling you things that we plan on doing, but at the moment, and that's what I think makes performance art so special, it's a special kind of theater, because unlike, say, watching a movie or watching a video or listening to a recording, it's mediated. There's a step or two between you and the audience. In theater, you might have the director or the playwright, but it's still a very, very visceral experience. When you get to something like what we're going to be doing, there's no barrier between the audience and the performers. We get energy from the audience, and they get energy from us.
Oh, absolutely.
It's a real synergistic kind of experience. And when it works, it doesn't always work. Sometimes an audience, you know, I mean, and I have no idea who will come out. This is in Santa Monica. It's around 18th and Olympic. If anybody cares or interested in knowing what part of town it is, it's in Santa Monica. For all the East Side LA people, have to get there rather early if they want to get there at all on a Friday night. It takes a lot of courage to hit those freeways. More than being cut by a scalpel, I think is
yeah, but it doesn't start to 8:30. Right. So I mean, you know, that should give them enough time to get there.
And I think it's a pretty big venue, Highways. I think there's maybe, and they usually charge $20 a ticket. But both Diana and Porno Terrorista and Kale both feel that that's too much money, so we said no, that's too much. They're only going to charge $10, which is, you know,
well, that's pretty amazing for that kind of performance.
Yeah, right. We'll have to have ambulances there if anybody faints. I don't know. That's what happened.
You're going to have a little person in the back with like a little cigarette box full of, like, you know, ammonia capsules.
Yes, exactly. We'll have to do that.
Well, get your anti-faint.
We are definitely going to have statements saying this is explicit. It's not for the faint-hearted.
Bring your smelling salts.
Right. It's explicit sex, unusual sex acts.
Bring your trench coat and your binoculars.
And your rubbers.
And your rubbers. Don't forget your raincoat.
No. Well, you know, it's one of those things that it just sort of happened. We've been talking about it, and trying to get the right time when everybody can travel and get to Los Angeles. So I'm pretty excited about the whole thing.
Nice.
And I love both of these people. I think they're both amazing people in their own rights, and are really talented and courageous. And I'm very happy to be associated with them.
Oh, that's awesome. And if you guys want to find out a little bit more about Porno Terrorista, she is on Facebook.
Oh, yeah. Let me give you what it is. It's Porno Terrorista, either Porno Terrorismo or Porno Terrorista.
It's Porno Terrorista.
Okay.
Censurada.
Censurada. On Facebook.
On Facebook, just type that in.
Porno Terrorismo?
Yeah. Terrorista.
It is Terrorista.
Yes.
Porno Terrorista.
Yeah,
Terrorismo means that's all of it, but she's the terrorist. She's a terrorist. She's a porno terrorist. And then if you want to find out more about Kale, Kale is on Facebook also. Kale.
And it's kale, just like the vegetable we all don't want to eat.
Kale Roberts on Facebook.
Though kale is quite tasty if you roast it.
It is. A lot of people are eating kale these days. I've seen it in all kinds of things. It's very trendy.
Well, it is. We started actually roasting it at home, which makes it really delicious. It's like, I don't like raw kale. I mean, I used to feed it to my iguana, but since we started roasting it with these herbs and oils and stuff, oh my God, it is so good.
Yeah, they mix it up now when you get those green power drinks.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't have kale in it. It's not
well, I mean,
enough.
kale's a powerhouse of nutrients. You know, it's a dark leafy green. It's full of calcium and all sorts of really good nutrients. You know, which means Miss Kale Roberts, or Mr. Kale Roberts, as it's soon to be,
yeah,
must be a pretty tasty dish.
I would say so. I would say so. He makes beautiful things. In fact, he'll be making the reins that I'll be holding.
Nice.
And I think he's going to make me some kind of he showed me a picture of it on Facebook. I don't remember exactly what it was. I think I'm on my breasts. I'm not exactly sure. Although, knowing Diana, Porno-Terrorista, will probably be nude most of the time. And there may be a few surprises. I don't know everything that's going to happen. And sometimes there is audience participation. She definitely has asked the audience to participate.
Yes, she might have to get naked, people.
Well, she invites you. She never commands you.
Of course not.
She doesn't say you must be naked. But the idea, I don't know.
Could you imagine if you said must, how many people would just...
I don't know what
intention is everything.
Right.
And some people, when you put the order out, their first inclination is, I just better obey.
Yeah.
Subs.
Well, when Diana did it last year, the person who was doing the video just took off all her clothes as well, and it was really fun to see a naked video person.
Nice.
That was something that was new. But it's weird being nude in public, and not necessarily because you're going to do anything sexy, but just because it's your body, and why not? If you want to, if the performer is going to be nude, why shouldn't you be nude as well?
Oh, why not?
It's an interesting idea. I would say it's something that not many people would request out of the audience. But she makes everything very warm and fuzzy, even though she does outrageous things. She doesn't do it in a manner that's off-putting or
no, she doesn't so much do it for the shock value.
No.
She's actually creating a beautiful experience.
That's what she's doing, and she wants everybody to have that experience. That's really, I think that, I want to speak for her, but for me anyway, it's the freeing of the inhibitions and being comfortable to be out in public without any clothes on.
Because, many of us, we haven't done that since we were toddlers.
Exactly.
Before, when we were still innocent and we didn't know better. And an old friend of mine, she's since passed, tells a story of when she was 4, and this is when she first realized what shame was.
Mm-hmm.
It was a beautiful sunny day, and her mom had turned the sprinklers on to water the grass, and she saw that, and she said she just stripped her clothes off and ran out into the sprinklers and started playing. And then her mom grabbed her and pulled her and says, "No, you don't do that." And she from that moment, she marks that as the point in her life when she lost her innocence. She says, I'll never forgive my mom for that. She says, before that, I was this happy, beautiful little girl, and then all of a sudden I had shame.
Well, the problem is there are people who are exploiters, and people who are molesters, and people who would take advantage of someone's innocence. So I think the mother was probably trying to protect her daughter.
Well, true.
And that's unfortunately because of, you use the word shame several times, and I certainly understand that word myself. That, I think, is the cause of much of the problems in terms of sexuality. People are ashamed of what they want, or they can't ask for what they want.
No, they can't. And and it's instilled at a very young age.
Yeah.
Young children often explore their bodies, and they get caught by their parents when they're told it's bad.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's very natural for a child to want to explore and figure out how all this works. After all, everybody does poop.
Yes, and there is a book about that.
There is.
There is, yes.
There really is.
But most of the time when you have a baby and you talk to a baby about the body parts, where's your head, where's your nose, where's your eyes, where's your toes, where's your belly button? They do go to the belly button.
Yes, they do.
And even a tush. They can talk about a rear end a little bit.
They can talk about a rear end.
But genitalia is usually not mentioned.
No, and then it's usually given the cutesy name like that's your pee-pee or your hoo-hoo.
And something like that.
You know, something that, tries to make it more functional, taking the sexual out of it.
I can understand, the danger of letting little children, be uncivilized. In certain cultures, at least maybe 100 or 200 years ago, like especially in the South Pacific and Africa, maybe some other island nations, before the weather was warm, for example, we didn't have to worry about winters. There was a lot, and there was maybe water around somehow, a lake or a river or the ocean. Somehow the body was more accepted. It was more accepted. And when the missionaries came up to the Hawaiian Islands, they completely were flabbergasted and just made everybody put on muumuus and made taboos and changed their whole sexual mores. And they've done that, of course, throughout the whole world, just about.
Oh yeah, now. Many cultures, they brought that into existence. Though I do meet the occasional parent that, children are smart. And they can definitely understand that there are private times where it's okay to do certain things, and then there's certain things we don't do in front of other people because it's socially not accepted.
Right.
And children are smart, You can talk to them and make them understand, but, for whatever reason, our culture, is very black and white, and they're so concerned that the Jones are going to take, they'd almost rather damage the child's psyche than to take the time to explain it.
Well, I think a lot of children, when you're talking about childhood, when I was young, a million years ago, children had a lot more autonomous time. Like our mothers, we lived on blocks, there weren't very many cars. They were like, suburban type blocks. And we would go out in the afternoons and be out for 3 or 4 hours, and our parents wouldn't even know where we were. Usually the mothers, the fathers usually working. And we would run around in gangs and go to each other's houses, and then finally at dinner time we'd show up.
Yeah.
But today, I noticed that for many, many urban children especially, or suburban children, their time is very regulated.
Oh yeah, it's entirely structured.
They have play dates, they have classes, they have time for this, time for that. Every day, every time, especially, they have very little time when they're left on their own by themselves or just to wander the streets, and that's because the world is so much more dangerous, I assume.
Well, yeah, it's a whole different ball game. I know when I was growing up, I could go to any neighbor on the street, and they all know who I belong to.
Yeah.
So there was no fear. My mom basically would just kick us out for the day and say, don't come back till it starts.
And that was, I think, pretty universal for many, many, many years.
Oh, absolutely. And then I look at my nieces and nephews who they've never been able to do that.
Yeah.
They've always had to have a cell phone or a pager. They had to record in. They have very strict schedules. They're taking lessons for this and lessons for that.
Yeah.
I mean, I was amazed when my brother got his daughter a Game Boy at age 5. And I'm going, that's so young. And he's going, you don't understand. All the kids in kindergarten have one. We don't want them to feel left out.
Yeah.
And I'm just going,
well, social pressures are amazing.
But that's teaching them to isolate at such a young age. It's becoming such an isolated society.
Yeah.
The people I see walking down the street, they're all walking with earphones in their ears and are, they're buried in their cell phone.
Yeah.
And, I'm really surprised we don't see more people walking into polls. I really am. Because people, they've invented this isolation. People are social in a very protective, different way now.
Yeah. Yeah, so my son, who used to like to watch me do some performance art back in the day, says, well, Mom, performance art is over. No one cares about performance art anymore. And I think what he means by that is that there's a whole generation now of people, especially in America, maybe in Europe as well, who are so used to being plugged in, to being wired, to having their device, whatever that is, that they get comfort from that. Whereas actual human interaction, where you don't know the outcome and you don't know, that's much more frightening now. So I think in a way performance art is sort of a dying art in a certain way, because more and more people maybe aren't willing to take the risk, because it is a risk.
Oh yeah, a lot of things are, things are so different. I know that I used to hang around with a bunch of folk singers in San Diego, And when we'd have a party, everybody brought an instrument.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd go around the circle, and each person would start a song, and then everybody would join in and jam. You know, and it was all very spontaneous and fun, and it was great wherever it ended up. But since I've been to LA, I've yet to run into something like that.
Yeah.
You know,
well, I'm sure there are.
I mean, there's drum circles and that sort of thing, and
yeah,
you know, but it's like, you know, there are a lot more instruments than drums. I know when I go to a drum circle, I bring other percussion instruments besides just drums.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because I want to harmonize and add something more to what's going on.
Yeah. Well, generations definitely change, and but what gives me hope is that someone like Kale, who I think is just in her 20s, and Deanna, I'm not sure, I would want to say maybe 20s, early 30s, maybe younger. It's really hard for me to tell these days, but there are pockets of these people around who are still interested in their bodies and doing work that involves their bodies, and I hope we'll get enough people to come to Highways to make it worth everybody's while.
Well, it sounds like it's going to be a fabulous show.
It should be. It'll be different. Like I say, the last time that she did it in LA, there was maybe 30 people, and it was like a little shoebox, like an apartment kind of space. It was very, very small. So we're hoping that we get some people to turn out, even out of curiosity, or because they might get turned on, or they might learn something they had, or see something they never saw before. I mean, you know, how many opportunities do you get to see, you know, female ejaculation on stage in real life? I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I go to events where that happens all the time. Hey, now is anybody showing up in the chat room yet?
Yeah, there's people in the chat room.
Let's get some questions then.
Yeah, there are people in the chat room, and there's people that are watching the show.
Okay.
A couple comments. Highway has a really good attendance. People normally have sellout shows at Highway, so it will probably be a full house.
Well, that's good to know. We're worried about that because they're coming from long ways away, so we hope there'll be a good audience.
No, Highway does a really job of promoting, and it's a really active place for performance artists, especially for unique, different sort of performance artists. And Cassie, a place where you can go to do a group singing and all sorts of things is at Gemini Manor. And it's this old house in Los Angeles. They have a party once a month. They used to have a party every Sunday, all different age groups. People bring music and they play as groups and a band, and they absolutely have a ball. They dance in one room. Another room, there's another group of people singing, and then they have a stage outside that people can performance. And it's a lot of fun, Gemini Manor. So Highways and Gemini Manor are pretty much, you know, they're pretty awesome places to go to.
Wow, great.
Well, thank you for the thing about Gemini Manor.
Yeah, I never even heard of it. But that's true in the city. You think you know everything, but it's so vast, and there's so many small little parts that you maybe haven't heard of, and you haven't seen. So, you know, I'll go to Gemini Manor some Sunday. Any other comments about anything else?
No, they're just listening to it, and it's really informative, and they're enjoying the conversation.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so it's you know. So how long have you been performing? Somebody wants to know.
I've been performing since 1981. So how many years ago is that? Oh, God.
Let me see, 19 plus 14. God, we had to do math. 29, 33.
30, yeah.
33 years.
That's a long time.
That is so freaking cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, somebody's got to do it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, when Bob died, because he was like the star, he was the one who was the main performer. I was assisting, and but there's something special about doing something in front of an audience, and the audience becomes very much a part of it, and I love that. So although I usually get really nervous before performances and stage fright and all those jitters and all that stuff, but people tell me that's normal.
Yeah, I guess for the most part. I mean, I used to get that way, you know, because I was always worried, are they going to show up? And then I figured out a few things on myself you know, if they don't show up, I can do it myself.
Right, exactly.
You know, and I just had to get to that point,
Mm-hmm.
you know, where it just doesn't even bother me to get on stage anymore.
Yeah, I'm better at it now. And of course, working with Martin O'Brien, who, by the way, Martin O'Brien is this wonderful performance artist from London, who has cystic fibrosis like Bob. And we've done 3 or 4 performances in London, and plus one very special one at the Sanctuary last year.
Oh, yes, I remember that one.
Yes, Cassie, you were a very nice part of that as well, where I had him in a cage for 24 hours. And I had people would come, and there was no set thing that they were going to do, but we were there for 24 hours, and they could come in at any time and stay as long as they wanted and check with me what they were going to do, and then they could play with Martin for as long as they wanted. And it was quite a performance.
It was a very successful event.
A very successful event, and Martin is coming back in January.
Oh, wow.
And he'll be, for the whole entire month of January, Martin O'Brien will be in Los Angeles. And we should do a performance, I don't know where yet or when or what the date will be, but I'm sure I'll let you know.
Oh, we'll be looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I know you guys will come up with something really great.
Well, he's into endurance, you know, and duration. So he likes pain. He's not a masochist per se, although a lot of his stuff does involve pain, but he has to endure the pain, and the duration means he likes things that last hours, days, or what have you. And so he'll be here for about a month. So I'm not sure what we'll come up with, but I'm sure it'll be something, and maybe I'll let you know, and maybe you'll be part of it too, Cassie.
Sure.
Because that would be great.
You know, I love to complain.
I know, and that will be sometime in January.
Awesome.
He'll be here for the whole month. Yeah.
I'll look forward to that.
That'll be really great. And let me see what else we plugged the show plenty. I just hope some of the audience shows up or tells their friend or is curious. We piqued your interest enough to have you come to the wilds of Santa Monica on Friday.
The wilds of Santa Monica. I love that.
August 15th at 8:30. I hope some of the Fet Life people will show up, and the Naughty or Nice people will show up.
Oh,
and
absolutely.
Reverend Mel's people will show up. Get them out of the dungeon for a little bit and into a performance space.
Yeah, come out and do something different.
Absolutely.
You know, so make sure that you RSVP on Facebook for Borderline Chaos. Or, you know, you can learn a little bit about Pornoterista on her website, also on Facebook, and K.O. Roberts on Facebook.
Right, and they're both amazing people, and for no other reason but just to get a chance to see them, because they don't come out to LA very often, that's for sure. And it should be a fun show. That there will be Pornoterista also writes poetry in Spanish and in English, so we'll have some of that. Some of Bob Flanagan's poetry will be there, and Kale is a person unto himself, with many tricks up his sleeve.
Nice.
And people who like pony play, there'll be a little bit, not the traditional, but there'll be something that will pique your interest as well, I'm sure. In fact, I want to put a plug in for is it Miss Sue Ann?
Oh, Miss Ann.
Miss Ann, yes.
Yeah, LA Pony and Critics Club.
Who was helpful and responded to my request for some help in some equipment. So I hope some of the pony people will show up. It's not a traditional pony event, but it should be fun, and I think you might like it as well. I hope you people will show up too.
Well, excellent. I'm glad you were able to get in touch with her.
Yeah, well, she got in touch with me, which was wonderful. But great community out there who really, you know, when people ask for things, are there to help out, which is really wonderful.
Is there a question in the chat room now?
I know, but Miss Anna is going to be my guest next Monday.
Oh, I didn't even know.
So we'll
That's
also do a plug for Borderline Chaos on my show.
Great.
So she's going to be, she'll either be doing it via webcam from San Diego or live in the audience. I mean, live in the studio. So
great, wonderful.
Yeah, so she's awesome. She's a really good friend of mine.
Oh,
awesome.
Good. Well, she was lovely to chat with her on Facebook, on FetLife even a little bit, and was very helpful. and I'm not really into that scene very much, but after Kale is in a way, I think Kale is, and I will be on a cart, and I will be, have him holding the reins. So
excellent.
So I guess I'm part of that scene now too, which I haven't really been before. So that will be fun.
Well, it's always fun to have new experiences.
Always fun to have
nothing like an adventure.
I like adventures. I definitely like adventures. Definitely. How are you doing on time? Are we?
Oh, we've got about 12 minutes left. So we still got a few more minutes.
All right.
I will be starting my rope classes again this month. As a matter of fact, there is a Miss Cassie rope bondage class this Saturday at Sanctuary from 12 to 2. And I'll be teaching 2 others this month as well. One on August 20th at 7:30, which is a Wednesday. And then I'll be offering another Saturday class as well on the 23rd, also 12 to 2.
Great.
So there'll be 3 classes a month now.
That'll be every month now?
Every month, yes.
I'm really glad to hear that. I've attended quite a few of Miss Cassie's classes, and I tell you, I learned something. Rope is not my forte, but I have a very good friend, Poindexter, who is a wonderful rope aficionado. And every time I go, I learn something. I love to model. I love to be the submissive in rope, and I love to have Miss Cassie tie me up, which she's done several times, and I love it every time she does.
Oh, a matter of fact, at DomCon, you and Poindexter were my rope bottoms for the class, and we had a blast.
It was really fun.
I got these two. I got Poindexter into a hog tie and then tied Miss Rose on top of them, and then we saran wrapped them together. It was great. Question now?
Poindexter was in the chat room, and he was having computer problems.
Oh, as usual.
Yeah, and he said that he's going to watch the show when it broadcasts, re-airs on YouTube. So he's sorry that he was having internet problems, but Poindexter was here watching the show.
Great.
Just to let you know.
Fantastic.
Glad to hear that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm teaching a really awesome tie this Saturday. I am doing a variation on a corset arm binder. I've actually taken the corset arm binder that I used to teach, and I've turned it into a little bit different variation, and the result has been beautiful. I can't wait to teach it this Saturday. There'll be nobody else doing this tie. It's something that I have totally redesigned.
Oh,
and I guarantee you it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It is a beautiful tie.
What's great about your classes is that you give all the basics that anybody would ever need. And you never neglect anything, no matter how many times you've already said it. You make it interesting and really important, vital information, because I don't think many people take the time to bother to really explain the safety aspects of it the way you do. And
and that's
not
so
too technical, but just enough so that people aren't going to take it lightly, and that's really important when you're playing with rope. And I always appreciate your explanations for rope.
Well, anything that we do in this community on the BDSM side, a lot of this stuff, it's, you look at that, you say it looks interesting, but I really suggest that you at least take a class or talk to somebody who's got experience with it, especially like some of the stuff you're doing in the show, cuttings. I mean, that does require training, folks. There are very safe ways to do it. I personally will not do a cutting in a public setting just because of infection and bacteria. If I'm going to do a cutting, it's going to be in a private thing. And usually, if I'm doing it with somebody, it's a personal thing. It's, a personal journey.
Oh, yeah. That's a big part of it, too. That's how I started out with Bob. I would cut the letter S into his chest. And that was a very personal thing. But I turned the personal thing into a public thing. Because I was a photographer, so I had to photograph everything that I did with him. And that's how that started. But many things do start out as personal.
Oh, yeah, and I've seen some beautiful photography on different kinds of blood play. Like, it's really beautiful when somebody's really good with needle play and they do the needles down the back and they lace them into like a beautiful corset. You know, that is always gorgeous. You know, I've seen all different kinds of things with needles and scalpels and cell popping, you know, where they actually, you know, with a needle over and over go through it and they make like a design pattern. It's another form of branding.
Wow. You know, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen.
Oh, it's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. It's just another way to do scarification or, well, temporary scarification and, you know, do a design on the body. And, you know, it's amazing what the imagination knows no bounds, what people have been coming up with.
Absolutely.
You know, but, you know, I know several people that are doing stuff like that, but all of them took the time to actually train with somebody who has done this. You know, and it makes it so much better.
Well, safety is always a concern. For the Society of Janus, safe, sane, and consensual.
And we still adhere to that.
And those are the three principles that the community at large should adhere to as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I get people all the time when I'm at a place, oh, will you play with me? Will you play with me? And I'm like, usually I will not play with them the first time I meet them. I'm like, you know, get to know me. I need to get to know you. And then we go, you know, the next time, you know, if I'm ready to play with them, then we start negotiating.
Right.
You know, but I rarely will play with somebody cold that I've never met. And that's going to dictate what kind of play I do with them, too. I mean, I'm very concerned about safety. You know, and if I don't know somebody, you know, I don't know if they're doing drugs or they've been drinking, you know, and just hide it well. It's like, you know, I want to get to know them at least a time or two before I actually do anything with them, you know, because I want to see how they react, how, you know, how they are at each thing, you know, because people can be one way when they meet you one time and then be totally something else the next time you meet them.
Right.
You know, I mean, some people do seem to have a split personality.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like any kind of dating or sex or any kind of relationship between two people. You can't do it really on the first night. I mean, you really have to get to know that person a little.
Absolutely.
You know, just to know if that is their true personality, or are they on something, or are they crazy, or do you really like them?
We know how hard first impressions are. You know, a lot of times when I go out on a date, you know, unless it's really truly heinous and it's obvious that they're a psychotic person, usually I will go on a second date anyways, just to see, you know, to give them a chance to give another impression.
That's a great idea, if you have the time or energy to do it.
Yeah, well, just because I know how hard first impressions are.
Right.
And most people are very nervous the first time you meet them.
Yeah, well, understandably so. And especially in the SM situation, I think we had Society of Janus before it became Threshold. This was back in Los Angeles back in 1982 or 3, I think. We had our first parties, and we always socialized first. We always had safety demonstrations first. We got to know the people in a clubby, with all your regular clothes on, you know, discussion group kind of a thing. And then we went to the parties. And by that time, you had got to know the person fairly well. And that was always a big part of it, was getting to make sure that person wasn't a Looney Tune type person, which you always can't tell at the very first time.
Oh, no, some people, you know, some people make a very good first impression.
That's right.
And you don't find out until later that they've got a few screws loose.
Yeah. and this community will attract some of those people. There's no question about it. Only 4 minutes to go. Anyway, but I think that's, you know, we talk about very far out things. We do things that the general population doesn't do because they have no interest in it, or because they're scared of it, or whatever the reasons. But I think there's a large underground community that maybe doesn't affiliate, or maybe doesn't go to all the meetings and stuff, but still has an interest in it, maybe just with their partner, and that's it.
Oh, I know a lot of people that only play in the bedroom, you know, but even those people, a lot of times, they're in my class because they want to learn how to tie properly. Exactly. You know, so I often will go over, you know, different positions and stuff. You know darn well you want to fuck her. So use a little common sense. You want to fuck her for a long time, right? Well, then put her hands in the right position so that you're not going to have to untie her in mid-stroke.
Right.
I mean, that really sucks, right? When you're ready to come and she's like, oh, God, my hand, take me out.
Yeah.
that sucks. You know, but if you just tie it in the right way and make sure the position is comfortable, well, then you can achieve climax and orgasm.
Oh, yes.
Before you have to take the ropes off.
Hopefully so. Hopefully so. Well, it's always delightful talking to you, Miss Cassie. I enjoy it so much.
And I love having you on the show and all your events.
And yes, well, it's just events that are public, you know. But most of my playing now actually is public. It's as a performance. My private life is still my private life. But I do enjoy performing still. They'll have to like wheel me off the stage, I think, finally when I'm done.
Oh, please! You'll figure out how to do wheelchair play.
We'll do. Well, that's the next frontier, right?
Yeah, jousting in wheelchairs.
Right, exactly. Well, as long as there's life, there's energy, and there's SM, and there's fun, and that's what we're all about here.
Yes, we'll all be throwing whips from our wheelchairs. Like,
yes. I'm sure your aim will be just as good as it is now. For sure.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't worry about it.
It's like, put those feet up. Pastanato.
Okay. Can we show our scene of the borderline chaos one more time? And with that?
All right, everybody.
Because we really do want to push it. I want to have a good showing for my friends, for Kale and for Diana Pornoterrorista.
So that's Borderline Chaos, Friday the 15th of August at 8:30 p.m. at Highways. And
Highways is the 18th, and Olympic in Santa Monica.
So fairly easy to find, and we've got great people coming with some fabulous stuff planned. This is so exciting.
It's gonna be a no rehearsal show. What you see is what you're gonna get.
So it is performance art at its best, true spontaneity.
Very spontaneous, although somewhat planned, but you never know what goes on when it actually happens. And
that is so cool.
Looking forward to it very much.
All right, so you guys can look that up on Facebook. We also have my rope class this Saturday for those of you who would like to attend. And my guest at Sanctuary. The Borderline Chaos is at Highways. The rope class is at Sanctuary. And my guest for next week's show is going to be Princess Marks.
I don't know.
She is quite an interesting dominatrix. Gorgeous, and she's got a very interesting life because she plays all over this country.
Really?
Oh yes, and she's quite a classy lady, let me tell you. So it's going to be a great show next week.
It's always a great show, and I'll have to tune in or watch it on the podcast afterwards.
Do we have the results of last week's poll now?
Yes, we do. I wrote it down. 171 people voted.
Wow.
And it was 30% was naughty. 22% was naughty and nice. 11% was nice, and there was no hottie. Even though I have to tell you that the video from last week, the numbers are pretty high. A lot of people have gone back and have rewatched it. I mean, it's really gone up in numbers.
Yeah, because that was Mistress Carr last week.
Yeah, and a lot of people have watched the show. So, you know, with the amount of people, and so we do have it posted to vote underneath, you know, on the side panel, so they could vote for tonight's show. Is she naughty or nice?
Yes, is Sheree naughty or nice? Well, she's planning on being naughty on the 15th, so you really should go down and watch that.
I'll be pretty naughty on the 15th.
Yeah.
Two to spank, 2 bongos and music. That's going to be a first.
And there'll be microphones and vaginas. Is that not awesome?
It's awesome. It's awesome.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in to Naughty or Nice with Miss Cassie, and we will see you next week. Bye. Have a fabulous evening.